The archetype of the lone wolf, the man who operates outside the conventional hierarchies of society, has long been a subject of fascination. In contemporary discourse, this figure is often termed the Sigma male. Unlike the dominant alpha or the supportive beta, the Sigma is defined by his independence, self-containment, and a unique psychological wiring that renders him exceptionally resilient in times of turmoil. This analysis seeks to dissect the core principles that underpin this resilience, moving beyond cliches to understand why. When systems crumble and collective panic sets in, this particular archetype doesn't just endure, but often emerges fortified, calmer, and in a position of unassailable strength. 1. The self-sustaining engine, generating internal amusement in a world of silence. The tyranny of external stimulation. Modern society is a meticulously engineered machine, designed for constant consumption and distraction. From the relentless scroll of social media feeds, the curated comfort of streaming services, and the ingrained rituals of the 9 to 5 work week, most individuals are conditioned to derive their sense of purpose, amusement, and even identity from external sources. Their minds are not their own. They are tenants in a building owned and operated by societal noise. This creates a profound vulnerability. The moment these external stimuli are removed, when the internet fails, the economy halts, or enforced isolation begins, a terrifying void opens up. This silence is not peaceful. It is accusatory and existential. Without the constant hum of validation and entertainment, the average person is forced to confront themselves, and for many, this is an unbearable prospect. They wither, grow anxious, and spiral into boredom and despair because they have never developed the internal musculature to sustain their own consciousness. The Sigma's inner universe. In stark contrast, the Sigma male is fundamentally autotelic. His purpose and drive are generated from within. He is a self-contained universe of thought, curiosity, and activity. His mind is not a passive receptacle waiting to be filled, but an active laboratory, constantly running experiments, deconstructing complex ideas, and pursuing obscure skills for the sheer challenge of mastery. This is not merely a hobby. It is a default state of his being. He does not require an audience, a paycheck, or social media likes to validate his pursuits. The value is inherent in the act of doing and understanding itself. Consequently, when a crisis strips away the noise of the world, the Sigma does not experience a loss. He experiences an expansion. The sudden abundance of uninterrupted time and the absence of social obligations are not a punishment, but a gift, a rare opportunity to dive deeper into his projects without apology. Where others see a prison of isolation, he sees a monastery of focus. He might finally write that book, learn a new language, repair and modify his equipment, or simply engage in deep, uninterrupted thought. This ability to be self-amused is arguably one of his most potent survival traits. It is psychological fortitude in its purest form. While others are draining their energy reserves through panic and boredom, the Sigma is conserving and even generating energy. He is not waiting for the storm to pass. He is using the storm's energy to power his own growth. By the time the dust settles and society tentatively reboots, he has not merely passed the time. He has leveled up, possessing new skills, sharper insights, and a calmer disposition that sets him leagues apart from the atrophied masses. 2. The clarifying fire, viewing crisis as rebalancing, not ruin. The herd's perception of collapse as betrayal. For the majority, a crisis is synonymous with catastrophe. It is perceived as a fundamental failure of the universe's promise, a betrayal of the implied contract that says if one works hard, follows the rules, and clings to established structures, they will be safe and secure. This perspective is rooted in a deep-seated belief in permanence. They view the pre-crisis state as normal, and any deviation as an aberration that must be corrected as quickly as possible. This mindset leads to frantic, often ill-considered actions aimed at restoring the past, a past that may have been inherently flawed or unsustainable. They mourn the loss of their gilded cage, forgetting that it was in fact a cage. The Sigma's perception of collapse as revelation. The Sigma male operates from a different foundational axiom. He understands that all systems are inherently transient. Governments, economies, social trends, and corporate structures are not eternal monuments. They are temporary arrangements, susceptible to entropy, corruption, and eventual decay. To him, a crisis is not an aberration. It is a necessary and inevitable phase in the cycle of systems. It is a brutal but honest rebalancing act. The fire that burns down the forest is not only destructive, it clears away the deadwood, returns nutrients to the soil, and allows for new, stronger growth to emerge. Therefore, the Sigma approaches collapse not with dread, but with a detached, analytical curiosity. His first question is not, why is this happening to me? But what is this revealing? The crisis acts as a truth serum, exposing every weakness, hypocrisy, and unsustainable practice that was previously hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. The corrupt politician is revealed, the fragile supply chain shatters, the fair-weather friend flees, and the worthless currency is exposed. The Sigma observes this process with clarity, not despair. He sees a collapse as a filter that efficiently separates the robust from the rotten, the essential from the superficial. This perspective allows him to bypass the grieving process that paralyzes others. He is already analyzing the new topography of the world, identifying opportunities amidst the rubble, and formulating a plan to navigate the new reality. He understands that the goal is not to rebuild the old world, but to build a new one better suited to the truths that the crisis has laid bare. 3. The invisible fortress, building unseen safety nets. The illusion of visible security. Conventional wisdom dictates that security is something to be displayed. People build their identities around their visible assets, the size of their bank account, the prestige of their job title, the brand of their car, the square footage of their home, and the breadth of their social media following. These are their talismans against uncertainty, and they proudly parade them, believing their worth is both defined and protected by these external markers. This is a catastrophic strategic error. In a crisis, anything that is visible and valued by the herd immediately becomes a target for envy, confiscation, or devaluation. The million-dollar portfolio can be wiped out by a market crash. The luxury car cannot be eaten. The extensive network of shallow friends will evaporate the moment you can no longer offer them something. The Sigma strategy of invisible preparedness. The Sigma male understands that true security is what cannot be seen, taken, or easily devalued. He builds his safety nets in the shadows, crafting a fortress of resilience that is invisible to the outside world. His investments are primarily in the intangible and the practical. Skills and knowledge, this is his primary currency. He invests time in mastering practical skills, mechanics, gardening, first aid, marksmanship, coding, and theoretical knowledge, history, philosophy, economics. These competencies cannot be inflated away or stolen. In a collapsed society, the ability to fix an engine, treat a wound, or understand geopolitical patterns is infinitely more valuable than a stack of now useless paper currency. Deep, low-profile alliances. The Sigma is not a misanthrope. He is a selective connectionist. He forges a small number of deep, trust-based relationships with competent, like-minded individuals. These alliances are not broadcasted. They are built on mutual respect, demonstrated capability, and silent loyalty. This network operates like a special forces team, small, highly skilled, and effective, utterly unlike the large, chaotic, and unreliable network of the socialite. Untraceable resources and fallback plans. His preparations include physical reserves, but they are discreet and diversified. More importantly, he possesses something even more valuable: options, multiple identities, escape routes, hidden caches, and off-grid possibilities. He is a ghost in the machine, leaving no digital or social trail that can be followed. The supreme advantage of this invisible fortress is that it cannot be sabotaged. By refusing performance preparedness, he avoids envy and targeting. When the crisis hits and those who relied on visible assets find them worthless or seized, the Sigma simply activates his plans. He is calm, collected, and miles ahead, not because he is lucky, but because he understood a fundamental truth. Strength is worthless if everyone knows where it is stored. For the illusion of permanence, rejecting the myth of stability, the herd's addiction to the status quo. Most people are psychological hostages to the status quo. They conflate familiarity with safety and routine with truth. They construct elaborate life plans based on the unshakable assumption that the world of tomorrow will fundamentally resemble the world of today. Their sense of well-being is pegged to the smooth functioning of systems entirely outside their control. The stability of the currency, the benevolence of their employer, the integrity of their government. This is a form of voluntary blindness, a comfortable delusion that makes daily life manageable but leaves them terrifyingly vulnerable to sudden change. The Sigma's embrace of fragility. The Sigma male lives with a conscious awareness of impermanence. He does not see stability as a default state, but as a temporary and fleeting condition, a calm between storms. This is not a source of anxiety for him. It is a source of liberation, because he never assumes the ground beneath his feet is solid. He is never truly blindsided when it gives way. A market crash, a betrayal, a social upheaval. These are not unimaginable shocks, but expected eventualities in a long arc of history. This philosophical stance forces him to live in a state of flexible preparedness. He enjoys the comforts and pleasures of stable times, but he never mistakes them for guarantees. He is psychologically and practically ready to pivot at a moment's notice. This mindset is the antithesis of the frog in the boiling pot parable. While others acclimate to slowly increasing danger until it's too late, the Sigma is always testing the water, always aware of the heat source, and always prepared to jump. His real security does not lie in the systems themselves, but in his own proven ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome when those systems inevitably fail. He is a master of navigating the river of change, while others build their homes on its banks and are surprised when the flood comes. 5. The comfort in the uncomfortable, a life lived on the fringes. The herd's need for belonging. Human beings are inherently social creatures, and for most, a sense of belonging is a non-negotiable psychological need. Exclusion, rejection, or being misunderstood is perceived as a profound personal failure and a source of deep anguish. Their self-worth is a reflection, aggregated from the approval of their tribe, company, or social circle. This need for external validation makes them dependent and, therefore, controllable. The Sigma's natural habitat, the edge. The Sigma male has, by choice or by nature, spent his entire life on the periphery of groups. He has been the outsider, the observer, the one who is often misread or underestimated. Where this experience crushes others, it has forged him. He has developed an immunity to the need for constant social validation. His sense of worth is internally generated. This lifelong training and operating from the edges becomes his supreme advantage in a crisis. When societal collapse forces everyone into a state of isolation and discomfort, cut off from their social networks, stripped of their validating routines, the average person experiences it as a terrifying exile. For the Sigma, it feels like Tuesday. He is already fluent in the language of solitude and comfortable navigating uncertainty. He doesn't need to be included to feel whole. This prior acclimatization means he doesn't waste a single calorie of energy on panicking about his changed social status. He can immediately channel all his resources into practical action and clear thinking. The very conditions that trigger existential dread in the herd are the Sigma's natural habitat. The crisis doesn't destabilize him. It simply expands the playing field on which he is always trained. 6. Immunity to the contagion. The psychology of group fear. The mechanics of mass hysteria. Fear is not just an emotion. It is a social contagion that spreads through groups with viral speed and potency. It bypasses the prefrontal cortex and speaks directly to the ancient reptilian brain. In a crisis, this phenomenon creates a herd mind, a collective panic where individual critical thinking shuts down and people begin to mirror the hysterical emotions of those around them. They become predictable, irrational, and dangerous to themselves and others. They stockpile toilet paper because someone else is. They flee because the crowd is fleeing. And they believe rumors because fear has overridden their capacity for skepticism. The Sigma's emotional autonomy. The Sigma male's inherent attachment acts as a potent vaccine against this contagion. Because he is not emotionally enmeshed in the group, he does not inhale its fear. He observes the panic from a distance, with the clinical detachment of a scientist studying a fascinating phenomenon. His decision-making process remains internal, based on a cold assessment of facts, risks, and opportunities, not on the trembling energy of the masses. This immunity allows him to see what others cannot, the opportunities that open up within the chaos. While the herd stampedes in one predictable direction, e.g., emptying supermarket shelves, the Sigma can move calmly in the opposite direction to secure overlooked resources. He can identify moments to leverage the desperation of others to his advantage. His calm is not a lack of emotion, but a supreme form of discipline. It is the ability to acknowledge fear as a signal without allowing it to become the commander. In the midst of the emotional flood, he remains standing on the high ground of reason, making sharp, clean, and effective decisions while others are swept away by the current. 7. The fluid self, the absence of a fragile identity, the trap of the costume. Most men construct their identities like costumes, tailored from the fabric of external validation. They're their job title, I am a vice president. Their relationship status, I am a husband. Their possessions, I am a homeowner. Or their social role, I am an influencer. This external identity provides a convenient and easily digestible answer to the question, who are you? However, it creates a profound fragility. The moment the costume is removed, through job loss, divorce, bankruptcy, or scandal, the individual is left with nothing. The self has been outsourced, and its revocation causes a total psychological collapse. They must then scramble to find a new costume, a new label to cling to. The Sigma's core of self-definition. The Sigma male never makes this error. He understands that roles are merely tools or masks to be worn for a time to achieve a specific purpose. He can play the CEO, the partner, the leader, or the follower, but he never confuses the mask for the man beneath it. His identity is not a costume. It is an internal, immutable core of principles, capabilities, and self-knowledge that is entirely independent of external circumstances. When a crisis vaporizes the social structures that provide others with their identities, the Sigma remains utterly intact. He does not need to mourn the loss of his title or status, because those things were never who he was. They were merely what he did. This fluidity is a monumental survival advantage. It allows him to adapt instantly. If he was a corporate executive yesterday and the economy collapses today, he can become a mechanic, a trader, or a strategist tomorrow without a shred of identity crisis. He feels no shame in stepping into a lesser role because his worth is not determined by the role. This ability to shed one skin and grow another makes him incredibly resilient and impossible to truly break, as there is no external hook on which to hang his destruction. 8. Surge with attachment. The ruthless elimination of dead weight. The sentimental sabotage of the herd. In stable times, people accumulate baggage, toxic relationships, incompetent business partners, friends who are purely transactional, and family obligations rooted in guilt rather than mutual respect. Most lack the courage to sever these ties, confusing obligation with loyalty and sentimentality with strength. They carry this dead weight into the calm seas of everyday life, and it merely slows them down. But when the storm of crisis hits, this same dead weight becomes an anchor that drags them beneath the waves. Their energy and resources, now critically finite, are drained by people who contribute nothing but need, drama, and poor decision-making. The Sigma's discipline of pruning. The Sigma male operates by a different code. His loyalty is not given blindly based on history or blood. It is earned through demonstrated competence, integrity, and mutual value. He is ruthlessly pragmatic in assessing his relationships. He understands that in a survival scenario, resources, including time, energy, and attention, are zero-sum. Every unit wasted on a parasitic individual is a unit stolen from his own survival and the well-being of his truly valuable allies. Therefore, when pressure is applied, the Sigma does not hesitate. He performs triage on his personal and professional circles with surgical precision. Incompetence, chronic ingratitude, neediness, and disloyalty are met not with second chances, but with immediate and permanent excision. This is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of profound responsibility to himself and to those in his circle who have proven their worth. It is the discipline to prioritize survival over sentiment. This ruthless selectiveness ensures he remains agile and unencumbered. While others are being dragged down by the weight of the people they were too weak to release, the Sigma is moving forward light, fast, and focused. His circle may be small, but it is forged in steel and it is unbreakable. 9. The alchemy of desperation. Turning panic into leverage. The predictability of desperation. Extreme fear and desperation trigger a primal regression in human behavior. They strip away layers of socialization, pride, and principle, reducing individuals to their most basic survival instincts. In this state, people become remarkably predictable. They will trade long-term security for short-term safety, surrender valuable assets for scraps of comfort, and pledge loyalty to anyone who offers a semblance of certainty. Their decision-making is governed by emotion, not reason. The Sigma is strategic patience. The Sigma male, insulated from the group panic, is uniquely positioned to observe and capitalize on this mass psychological breakdown. He understands that desperation is a force of nature, and like any natural force, it can be harnessed. He does not need to be predatory or exploitive in malicious sense. He simply needs to be patient, silent, and ready. He allows the desperation of others to do the work for him. The man who once arrogantly refused a business deal may now beg for it on far less favorable terms. The community that dismissed his ideas may now plead for his leadership. Resources that were once hoarded by others are now sold cheaply just to gain a temporary advantage. The Sigma, with his clear mind and preserved resources, can acquire loyalty, assets, and influence at a deep discount. He turns the chaos that cripples others into the currency of his own advancement. This is not about preying on the weak. It is about recognizing that in a rebalancing world, value is transferred from those who cannot hold it to those who can. The Sigma is simply the willing recipient of that transfer, making deals that strengthen his position while providing the desperate with exactly what they think they need in the moment. 10. The strategic ghost, navigating collapsing systems unseen. The peril of high visibility. In any hierarchy or system, those at the apex, the most visible CEOs, the most famous influencers, the most powerful politicians, are the most exposed. Their fortunes, reputations, and identities are inextricably tied to the health of the system they represent. They are the figureheads on the ship. When the ship goes down, they are the first to be consumed by the whirlpool. Their high visibility, which was their source of strength, becomes their ultimate vulnerability. The Sigma's power of low-profile integration. The Sigma male avoids this trap through strategic invisibility. He is a ghost in the machine. He may work within systems, but he is never of them. He refuses to fully integrate his identity with any corporation, institution, or social group. He maintains a healthy detachment, ensuring that no single point of failure in the external world can become a point of failure within himself. He leaves no unnecessary digital footprints, avoids boasting about his preparations or positions, and cultivates a persona that is competent but unassuming. When the system begins its collapse, this ghost-like quality becomes his greatest asset. There is no throne for him to be thrown from. There is no public reputation to defend. There are no sycophants expecting him to save them. He can simply detach and melt away into the background, untouched by the reputational and financial carnage that consumes the highly visible. He is free to observe, assess, and reposition himself in the new landscape without any baggage. He can move through the crumbling ruins like a phantom, accessing resources and opportunities that are invisible to those who are busy fighting for their crumbling crowns. His power lies in his absence of a fixed point, making him impossible to pin down and impossible to break. 11. The death of ego, embracing pure functionality. The alpha's fatal vanity. The classic alpha male archetype is built upon a foundation of ego and dominance. His identity is contingent upon being perceived as the strongest, the most successful, the man in charge. This is his greatest weakness in a crisis. When collapse dismantles a hierarchy, the alpha would often rather go down with the ship than take an action he perceives as beneath his status. He would choose to star with his pride intact rather than perform menial labor to eat. His ego is a cage, and he would rather die in it than be seen outside of it. The Sigma's pragmatic flexibility. The Sigma male has no such vanity. His ego is not a rigid structure, but a fluid tool. He can abandon at the moment it becomes non-functional. His core purpose is survival and advancement, not the preservation of a particular image. This grants him breathtaking flexibility. If the situation requires him to lead, he will lead. If it requires him to follow orders quietly, he will follow. If he must dig ditches, clean floors, or perform any other task the ego-bound will consider humiliating, he will do it without a second thought. He understands that the role does not define the man. The man defines a role through his actions and his unwavering focus on the end goal. This ego-free adaptability makes him unstoppable. He can operate effectively from any position, high or low. He is never above doing what is necessary. This allows him to conserve energy, gain intelligence from unexpected places, and avoid the conflicts that destroy those who are obsessed with hierarchy and social prestige. In the chaos of a crisis, the Sigma will outmaneuver the Alpha every time because the Sigma is playing chess, focused only on the outcome, while the Alpha is still trying to win a beauty contest. 12. The anticipatory mindset, living with the inevitability of collapse, the herd's delusion of permanence. The average person lives in a state of willful blindness, treating the complex, interconnected systems of modern civilization as permanent fixtures. They believe the economy will always mostly grow, that their currency will always have value, that their government will always function, and that peace is a default state of affairs. This is a comforting delusion, but a delusion nonetheless. It is a failure to study history, which shows unequivocally that empires rise and fall, currencies hyperinflate, and periods of peace are merely interludes between conflicts. The Sigma's historical consciousness. The Sigma male lives with a deep-seated historical awareness. He views the world through a cyclical, not linear, lens. He knows that collapse is not an if but a when. It is not an anomaly. It is an integral part of the design of all complex systems. They are born, they grow, they peak, they decay, and they die. This anticipation is woven into the very fabric of his worldview. Therefore, he does not live in anxious waiting for doomsday. Instead, he lives with quiet, constant preparedness. He positions himself lightly, avoids overinvesting in obviously fragile systems, and always has a plan B and C and D running in the background of his mind. He uses the system while it benefits him, but is always mentally and practically prepared to exit it when the collapse he anticipated finally arrives. He is not surprised. He is validated. His reaction is not one of shock and panic, but of calm activation. He begins executing plans he formulated long ago, while others are wasting precious time and energy on the futile question, how could this happen? The Sigma is already in motion, responding to new reality with a clarity that seems almost supernatural. He knew it was coming, and he was always ready. Conclusion: the unbreakable man who needs nothing. When the storm of crisis finally passes, the landscape is littered with the wreckage of shattered identities and broken systems. The majority are left dazed and grieving, desperately trying to piece together fragments of a world that is gone forever. They crawl back toward a normalcy that may never return. The Sigma male, however, walks out of ruins untouched. He is not emerging from a bunker. He is simply stepping out from the shadows where he has been operating all along. He is sharper, calmer, and stronger. His strength was not found in resisting the storm, but in understanding its nature and using its energy. He did not survive by being the loudest, the richest, or the most powerful. He survived by being the most adaptable, the most self-contained, and the most clear-eyed. His ultimate power, the core truth that makes him untouchable, is his radical independence. The man who needs a lease in the world. Its validation, its entertainment, its labels, its constant stability cannot be broken by its absence. He is not waiting for the world to save him or to return to what it was. He is already moving forward within a new reality, turning chaos into his element and demonstrating profound truth that in the end, survival is less about what you cling to and more about what you're willing to let go. Do you resonate with the ideas I shared in this video? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in more content about Sigma males, explore the other videos on this channel. Thanks for watching.